Okay, here we go. Recording started. Okay, so let me create the context for this, and today we're finally ready to start putting in at least a high level view of the capabilities. And the capabilities can be used in a couple of ways. One way is just as a mere checklist. Like this is the working screen you've seen this before, uh, where the idea here is to think about the kind of the flow that's taking place, and we've broken it down into six main areas. Plus, we add value stream management, learning and lean leadership, and again, attending to rather actually the value creation structure. This is an overarching thing. There's still obviously some polishing going on as we're um, seeing how this fits into the whole Amplio diagnostic, because this is a set of capabilities and these are things you use. There's, of course, more to Amplio to this, and I'm starting to build that on the screen. I'll give you the link to the board I'm using in just a minute. Now, what's interesting though is if you just use this as a checklist and nothing else, I think you'd be ahead of the game because most people don't recognize what's really important. Because, well, basically, most frameworks do one of three things. They either leave a lot out, or they put so much stuff in you can't tell what's important because there's too much, or some have a basically are starting with a set solution, and I don't believe in set solutions. It surprises me some of the ones that do because Les, for example, it's actually very smart people behind it. They've got very good principles, and it's actually a pretty good of if you were going to look at a framework, it's probably the best one out there that I see, but it still has some fundamental do it this way kind of things, and the do it this way things don't work everywhere. So the problem in things don't work everywhere, it's okay if it tells you it didn't work, but then it needs to give you a way to get around that, and nobody does. Amplio works the another way. Amplio says, let's look at everything, but not all at once, because that's too complicated. Let's have the system have most everything, but have a way to distill it down. So this isn't everything. I mean, this is quite a few things. And this is part of the problem I've been having with creating this in a nice, easy way to do it. And I've come to the conclusion there is no single nice, easy way to do it. Okay, I've been going around in circles for months, I think, on some level. And although this will get translated to where you can make changes and additions, I've come up with something that I think works that is actually very easy to change, and we're going to use it while we learn. Now, I do want to show, I don't know if you've seen this, we're still working. I had some very interesting experiences with my graphic artist who normally works 4 hours at a shot. And I said, I really wanted to get this done by this morning. Actually, it turns out I didn't need to get it done. I just wanted it. I thought I needed it, but then when he didn't get it to me, I realized, no, you don't need it anyway. I'll chill. But I broke two rules of mine. So he messed up, but I set it up. This is the way management, by the way, you should view it. So one thing is normally works in 4 hour batches, and because I wanted it so much, he agreed to work in an 8 hour batch. And guess what? The last 4 hours was a waste of time. Why? Because he didn't get feedback, because I don't wake up at 2 in the morning to give him feedback. And normally 4 hour batches is fine. So he went to a bigger batch and he went the wrong way. Okay. The other mistake was I didn't have acceptance criteria. Yes, I talked to him about it. Yes, we had a recording of it, but nobody's going to go back and listen to the recording to see what they forgot. Why? Because you forgot it and you don't know you need to do that. So he missed two of the salient points I was trying to get. And to me, it's just, oh, big learning experience, Al. Don't violate your rules just because you think you can, because that's usually when it comes into problems. So what's going to happen is we're going to be making something like this where these are they're going to be laid out like this, although somewhere, oh yeah, they're going to be laid out more. See, he was doing it like this at first even, but what we want is where you have these guys able like this spread out so you can put the challenges in the middle and then have arrows go up to the capability. So everything that's around here, and it bends around because we needed the space, will be the capabilities, and we'll do the same thing down here. We just haven't gotten it to it yet. And And this is, by the way, a good use of why we do iterations. Why do the whole thing here and the whole thing here before we get one of them right? Because they're going to have the same feel. So we're only concentrating on the top. When we figure that out, we'll do the bottom. But what this will give us is the ability to say, these are the capabilities. And when you put your challenges here, you'll be able to point to which capabilities you're not doing well. That's why we're staggering lines will be able to come in. So that's the kind of where we're headed. But let me show you where we are. Okay, let me give you this. This board is a new board. Now, this board is going to be on an ongoing basis, will be available to the people in Amplio University, and I will split some of it out for the ACOP members because some of this is like behind the paywall. But right now, it's above in front of the paywall because I want help building it. And be clear, everything on here is going to be community Creative Commons. Okay, so anything you do is Creative Commons. Yeah, I should probably put a list of participants who've done things, but let me put this in the chat and tell you what we're going to do today. Um, this is, by the way, another thing that I have discovered, which is the best way to build things where you're building them where people will use them is to build them in a way while you're trying to explain it, because it turns out if you have to explain it, it has to be simpler to explain, and that affects the design. Okay, so you can get on in there. Just put it in the chat. Now let me explain what this board is and what we're going to do with it. There's some sections. I haven't put frames around it yet, but they basically go left to right, top down. But the left to right, let me show you what we're going to do. So I have the picture you saw right here in the middle because it's just a good reference. Okay, so hey, while I'm talking, this is, by the way, this is how you put frames in Lucid. You just ask for a new frame, you give it a title. I'm just going to call it the diagnostic and the improvement map picture. And now what's cool is anywhere you are, you can come down here, click this, click it, and it takes you to it. So that's a nice navigation technique. Okay. So this is just here for reference. This is one of the big things. I just not sure how to get this across to people, to be candid. People seem to either get it or they don't get it. Okay. Or at least get it as a concept that there is a cause and effect out there. And yes, there's also complexity, which means if you just pay attention to what you know the cause and effect is, you're in big trouble. But if you pay attention to what the cause and effect is and you get feedback so you can see when there's something else, you will move much faster. And that's the whole idea here. So I do have a whole bunch of hours and hours on all this, and I'll add that link here. Let me just do that here. Add link to foundations. It's all free, all on the Success Engineering web. Uh, uh, you can learn this one of three ways. One way is you can go through the foundations, about a day of material, and study what I'm saying. Another way is just to look at this and decide, well, how does that relate to my own experience? Because all this stuff is verifiable in that regards. Or the third way is forget about this, just trust it's out there. And as we work and you say, well, why is that so? Come back and look at it. That's the way probably most people would prefer. Depends what your learning style is. Some people like to see examples and figure out the model. Some people like the model and figure out the examples. There's no right way to do this, and it's probably difficult to change. My experience is I see few people change their behavior. I've taken this approach at least since college, maybe before then, but probably before then. Anyway, here's what we're going to do. Pull back again. Okay, you can see this is a big table, and I've decided actually to start making use of this table. I thought it was going to be just a temporary thing, and but I don't think so. I think this is a good model. So here, let me pull this up, and you see how it's got focus on success, See, focus on success, strategy, and budgeting. These down on the left are grouped by color according to these along the top. Okay, now you don't need to look at the two at the same time. I'm just showing you the mapping. And we have then for each row, see business architecture. For each one of these, I have a row. Okay, now here's the thing. Is this complete? The answer is of course not. Does this match you? No, not necessarily. In fact, as I keep thinking, I've been realizing I've been making some decisions, trying to keep it simple that I'm not sure keeps it simple. See, I think when you're doing the interaction with people, having a few things to bring up is good. But there's some real clear things I've left out. In fact, some of you have been with me for a while will notice full kitting starts, comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. I can't make up my mind. Seriously, can't make up my mind. Why? Because at first I had it as MVIs, and then I had MVIs and I added full kitting. Full kitting is when you make sure you know everything, how it's happening, you know, that's needed. And then I thought, oh, that's too many things. So make MVIs include full kitting, and I took it off. But then I kept thinking, no, full kitting is separate from the MVIs. You can full kit epics. In fact, if you look at what it takes to get a full epic out, part of the motivation you'll have is go to MVIs because it's easier. It takes fewer things. It's one of the reasons to go to MVIs. So I put it back in, but it taught me this going 360. I think I've done 540 actually. That's around one whole time and then back a half a way again. Is there isn't the right way to look at this. There's a dynamic here. Okay. That said, you need something set. You cannot go in to executives and managers and say, oh, it all depends. People don't think that way. Some do, most don't. So, what this is intended to be is a set to pull from. Now, there's another thing I'm going to just caution right from the beginning. Not only is it not complete for in general, although I think it does follow the Pareto, just looking down for this page here. I have seen cases that just bring up a whole new set of things. And I used to think of them as capabilities, and they are, but they're really more about constraints. Okay, so if you're in the pharmaceutical business, you're going to have constraints. If you're in the military, you're going to have constraints. If you're building hardware, you're going to have constraints. Now, I intentionally put these off to the side because they need to be added, but it could be you could take the table and add your own constraints if you want to. Okay, so that's the context. I have an exercise I want y'all to do, but I want to get questions asked and hopefully answered first. Are you okay? I'll just ask them as they come. Okay, so let's come to here. Here's what I want you to do, and I just want you to go in and do it. This is just we're going to try this for 5 minutes and see. So, identify critical stakeholders, why this is important. In other words, now remember stakeholders, and in fact, I'm starting to add here, actually, maybe I put this down on the bottom, but here, let me put a frame around this. I've written 2 posts about this. Don't worry that when this happens, by the way, it means this is in the front and needs to go to the back. So you simply arrange, send to back. There we go. How about that? I have seen that there are 3 things that are mostly ignored that I encapsulated here. If you don't look at it, you don't even know it's there. I mean, if you're not talking about it, you don't even see it. We need experience and theory. I use the Da Vinci quotes and Deming. So this is not a new concept. Deming talked about it, but Da Vinci talked about it as well. And then a comfort zone has less to do with control and more to do with knowledge. One of the things I recognize that I did, and I put it here, when I went into a place, I would always look at these 9 things. Do they understand the basics of flow? If not, I better teach it to them. They will sabotage things. And if you're a systems thinker, you'll know that the fault is yours, not theirs, if you don't teach them why, if you don't teach them what they need to know so they don't sabotage things, then that's on you. If you do teach them what they need to know so they don't sabotage things and they sabotage them anyway, then it's on them. But most of the people I see will not sabotage if they understand. Okay. I always look for this. Remember, there are three stakeholders, three types: sponsoring, consuming, constraining. I prefer to, consuming stakeholders are often customers, but they're sometimes internal parts of the organization. Okay. This is strategic pillars. What are people doing? I'm starting to add a little bit of a map here. I've taken some snapshots of pictures to go. An intake process, MVIs. This is really the most critical. This one concept, I've seen organizations of up to 300 or 400 people change just on this one concept. And it's not in the agile space. The only person I know who talks specifically about it is Steve Tendon with what he calls move. Same concept. I probably, if I went into it, they'd be virtually identical, but there are probably some subtle differences. Then planning with MVI. See, these are two different things. There's MVI use, but then how do you plan with them? It's interesting. There aren't many local things you can do that make a difference or you're confident of, but actually, local WIP management is something that can be done as long as you don't do it at the effect of the bigger picture, which will impact you. So, this is all at the start. Okay. So, that's just there for reference. Okay. Let's get to the exercise. What do I want you to do? Okay. Here we go. Okay. So, if you see you want some other thing, feel free to add a row down here like that. Okay, now I don't want that row added, so I'm going to get rid of it. But that's all you do. You just hover over here. You can click, and then this comes up, and you can add a row. Just make sure you add a row in the right place so you get the right color. Okay, so go down to the last one that's there. What I want you to do is just pick something you think is interesting, and you either ask me if you don't understand it, or add why it's important. The symptom of not doing this. Well, no, I have write-ups of most of these in my book, Amplio Development, which I'm actually going to change the title. But uh, I figured a good way to learn this is for y'all to be filling this out. So this is why you do this objective. What's the symptom of not doing this? What's an implementation method? So this could be more than one because there are more than one. So I'll put it like that. What's an insight pattern? Now, I'm not going to do this today, but in the next session or the session after that, I'm going to add 5 more columns out there, which would be scoring methods. I have this in an Excel sheet now already, but I think doing it dynamically is cool. Why do I think it's cool? Because see, don't do this. I'm going to show you something you can do with these tables. You see that little, see when I hover over it, you see that little cross there? See, if I hold it down, I can move it. That's kind of cool because it might be when you're using this as a tailoring tool, you want to rearrange the order. The order I've got them in is a little bit arbitrary. Okay. Okay, so let's set the timer. Okay. Questions anytime. And I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes just to see how we go. And I'm here for questions. If I go off screen, I'm still in the room. I can still hear you. So pick a thing and kind of work on it. Anything you want in any column, doesn't have to be left or right, anything. So you can come from, oh, here's a way to do it wrong. Here's what happens when I don't do it, however you want to. Just click it and you can enter in. Oops, sorry. Just demonstrated why Control Z is my favorite key.
Uh,
That was on me. Oh, sorry again. I shouldn't have done it this way. Apologies here. Okay, I'll stop doing that. My bad. Okay, we're out of time. Okay, any comments? This looks good from what I've seen. Any comments or questions? It looks like it's being populated pretty well. We okay? Okay, well, let's do another 5 minutes because I want to show a couple other things, but I want to make sure we get this. And during the process, ask questions. I'm filling in things too. Especially fill in if it's not clear what you mean. I mean, I could go through all these, but I think a lot of them are clear from the past and we went through some of them before. But please ask because I'm just trying to save some time. Okay, give another 5 minutes.
I have a technical question.
Yeah, sure, Tony.
How to actually input into the box I'm logged into Lucid, and I clicked on a box that I'd like to.
Where are you? What
I'm
row?
at full kitting, so
Okay,
I'm
so if
on the
you want
second.
to click on it, what you do is here, you see me here. Let me get rid of that.
Yes, I do.
Oh, I got it, Tony. So just click once.
Right, I'm there.
Okay, let's see. I think once should do it. Okay, click for some reason.
It's
Yeah, click
almost
again. See, it should highlight it for you. Click it.
right. It looks like it's highlighted, but
Well,
when I
type. What
actually try to
happens when you
input,
type?
nothing really.
Okay.
So I don't know if my
Okay,
permission.
move the cursor over to the right. Yeah, now not, but let me get it. Click it once. Click on that
Okay.
once.
Do you see anything?
No, no, double click it. See what happens when you double click it.
I get a couple of icons, a smiley face and a parentheses.
Yeah, this is weird. See,
Nothing.
I'm here and I click once.
Yeah,
That's what happens, and you're not getting that.
yeah. It's
Now
almost like I
you
don't
took the
have.
share link. You took the share link on, yeah, you have to. That's the way
Yeah.
it's there.
So I'm in, but it's like I don't have edit or
Yeah, I can't figure out why you would be different.
I
I'm
don't
looking
know.
up here on my screen of who's in.
It's
Here,
like
I'll tell you
welcome
what, try
to
this. Let's just try something else. Move the cursor over to this area. See where I'm wiggling mine off to the left.
okay. And so I
Now double click. See what happens when you double click.
okay. Do you see my face or my
Yeah, I
picture?
do. Yeah, double click.
Good.
Nothing's happening.
No, I don't see my.
Okay, did you sign in when you came in?
I thought so. I have an old.
You have a Lucid account, right?
Yeah, yeah. I signed in.
This
So
is weird. I tell you what, why don't you just leave, not Zoom, but leave Lucid
no, Lucid. Okay,
and then
I'll
come
do
back
that.
in.
I am
And
stand
then
by.
try the double click on that left area.
Okay, so I'm going back in. I'm clicking on your link.
This is very weird. I've not seen this before, Tony.
Yes, yeah. Like I say, welcome to my universe.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I'm in.
Now
I'm double
double click.
clicking in spare in the blank area on the left.
Yeah, and you double
Wait a
click and
minute. Is
nothing's
that?
happening.
Yeah, and it is, and I'm on my screen too, not yours. So
Yeah, I know. I can see because I can see your cursor moving around, so
and
I
I
know
can blow
you're
things
looking at the
up.
right thing. I've never seen this. It's like here, go try right clicking and see what happens.
Okay, let me go back to the.
No, go on the left. I'm just trying to
Oh, I see.
just double click there.
Oh, okay. So I have add comment. I don't know if that's
You had add comment. Did you okay on the right
on.
that was a right click?
Yes.
Okay, well so try to add a no, yeah, okay, so you can do that. Okay, so now put the cursor somewhere else on the left, like where my cursor is wiggling,
Okay.
and
Right.
double click your left cursor, your left
Okay.
mouse.
Got you. And nothing happens.
Okay, I'm wondering if it isn't but your mouse is working okay. I
It
mean, the
seems to be
clickers on
fine.
the buttons on the mouse are working
Seems to be,
okay.
yeah.
It's almost like it's not paying attention to that.
Uh, I am.
See, because a double click on with the left button should pull up a sticky like that just did near you. And a right click, is this the window you get on your right click?
I am on that window. Yes.
I mean, when you right click, do you see the little thing that pops up this here? Is that what you see when you right click?
Uh, Actually, when I right click on anything,
No,
nothing
no, no.
really.
Go, let's keep it the same thing. Come over
Oh,
to
I
the left.
see.
I
I'm
only
right
want you
clicking.
here. When you right click here, what do you get?
I have options for add comment or board settings.
Yeah, it's like you don't have right control. That's what it is.
Aha.
Um, okay. Here, let me
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail things.
no, no,
And
it's
I
not your
can
fault.
and I could probably verbally tell you what I had in mind anyway when the
Well,
time
here,
comes.
let me give you a separate invite.
All right,
Just hang on a second.
sure.
So here, I'm going to add a couple of more minutes to this while I fix this. Oops, I didn't mean to stop it. So you got 3 more minutes. Yeah,
Uh,
no, this is good to know because if you're doing this with
just
a
in
client
case.
and this happens,
Yeah,
you don't
that's
want to
right.
be figuring things out.
No, no. Do your tech beforehand.
Now
I'm happy to help.
can you chat me? You can do it directly with me, your email.
Yes.
Uh,
1 second
uh,
here.
Tony, maybe I know because I'm experienced the same, but I probably found the solution for that. In
Oh, great.
the upper right corner, you have a request edit access button, and
Oh, okay. That
next to
sounds
your
really
icon,
plausible.
Where is
next to
that?
your icon,
So I'm
right up at the top right corner.
What
right
is
corner.
this?
Oh, yes, request edit access. I believe he's right.
Okay, good, good. Thank you.
And let's see, I would like
Uh,
to, so I hit request. And I don't know if that's going to your email or some other
It
channel.
might. I'm looking for it.
Okay.
I thought it popped up on this thing, but
It may.
probably,
I should expect here. Yes, thank you. The request edit access. I think that's exactly what I needed to do.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Here it is. I think it
That
just
was
came. Yes, you're requesting access.
beautiful.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Oh,
I don't know why I didn't give it to you in the first place, but now give it a shot.
mhm.
yes.
Cool.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. See if you can do anything.
Yeah, it looks like I can
Okay, great. Good. Good to know.
log
Good to
in
know. I didn't even
record.
realize that. Didn't even think about that.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, well, still got a minute left for everybody else.
Good. Login required. I can do that.
moving this over because I'm going to expand something.
Sure.
Just a minute. Okay. Okay. So we're out of time now. Hang on. Let me show you something else. Okay. So any comments or questions about where we are with this? Is this a learning experience? I mean, you're helping me fill it in, but I could have done that myself since I have these. I decided to let you do it because I'm trying to set up for deeper learning. What I like, what I see. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, and the other reason is it's kind of interesting. To be candid, I wasn't sure I thought about the business model canvas for the architecture, but that's a really good thing. Now, so questions or comments? Is this useful to be working through? That's a question I have for you for feedback. Here, let me
It shows us
answer.
what we know and what we don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, and that's useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to expand two things here. So nobody be changing anything because I'm about to modify the table significantly. Okay. What I want to do, since there are multiple implementations, oops. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. It's not what I want to do. What I want to do is this. Come on, make it twice as well. Here's one way to do it. I know how to do this. There you go. It'll automatically do that. Now don't add extra space, but you can add one of these simply by putting the cursor on it, do Control C, move to about where you want it to be, and then adjust it. It'll lock it into place in the right way. Because we might have multiple implementation methods. So let's have different cards. But here's what I want to look at too. And this is expanding how we can use this. See, this is the thing. I believe in two things where I agree with the whole complexity theorist people. Yes, the behavior must emerge, but that doesn't mean you have to waste time or be in a high risk. It simply means you have to take small steps in learning. This, by the way, is very consistent with the Toyota Kata approach. You see where you are, you see where you want to go, you take small steps to get there. Now, I'm not saying you don't take wrong steps, except actually, if you do it right, you won't take wrong steps. Now, that sounds like wait a moment, Al. You're saying it's not deterministic and you're not going to take a wrong step. See, I would suggest when you want to make a change, when you're having troubles with something, one of two things will be useful, and they're both useful. The first one is discovering what the right thing to do is. Yay, we like that. The second thing is discovering there's something you didn't know that you need to know to get to the right thing. Those are both useful. I think they're equally useful. Does that make sense? You either do it the right way or do you discover something missing that's stopping you from doing it the right way. This is the whole idea of systems thinking blended with understanding cause and effect with inherent simplicity. Goldratt doesn't say you see everything. I'm going to come over here. You know, these are the first principles. These are the things that govern most of the system. He doesn't say you see all these things. He says they're there. You discover these things by taking what you do see and seeing, oh, well, gee, that didn't work. Why did it not work? Not because I'm a stupid idiot who doesn't pay attention, but because there was something I didn't see. And now I see it. So my model has improved. This is very important. This is plan, do, study, act, or plan, do, check, act, however you want to look at it. When you just inspect and adapt and adjust to it and do it differently, you're not improving the model. That's why you need a theory. Okay. So this is one thing that we want to do. So what I want to do in the next step a little bit is, and I'll get these columns in the right. I'll get them the right width by putting something, oops. Just getting the right width, and then I'll put the labels on what I mean by these. This is where there's a lot of detail, but it will actually help you learn a lot of what's going on. I'm just going to call this, we could call this not aware to very good. I don't want to say expert. Okay. So there are different ranges, okay? How do we want to label these? In other words, I'm doing this, I'm not even aware of it. I'm aware of it, but not doing it. Or good, I guess is one way to do this. Although this does that make sense? I mean, it's really an arbitrary 1 to 5. Okay. So if you're not aware of it, this is something to notice. By the way, it might be nice to put a score here. Actually, let's move this over to here. In other words, you're the consultant. You're going in. You know this at least a little better than them. You see, well, they're not even aware of it. Okay, well, not aware. Or they're aware, but poorly doing it. You know, I'm not sure what the range you'd like to use here is. If I've got a 1 to 5, so they're not aware. They are aware, but they're not doing it. They're doing it poorly. They're doing it well, and they're doing it very well. Well, I don't know. It depends how you look at it, whether it's an adjective or an adverb.
Maybe instead of saying poor, that they are beginning to use it.
Yes, thank you. Aware, beginning. Oh, I'm sorry, not aware, aware.
But not using, and then beginning to use it, using it well, and then very well, or something.
Does that make sense? Now, the one thing I don't like about this, but I think we're going to hit this anyway, is the 3, which sounds like average, will mean they're beginning to use it, but that's okay. So a 4 or 5, you want kind of 4 or 5 to be good. Okay, so great. So, and we could put this here to put numbers just to make it easier to put the score on. So when you do this, there are 2 things, and I'm leaving one out right now. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. We'll get to this next week. And this is where it gets exciting to me. I'm sorry, was somebody going to say something? Okay, so here, whatever, you can put it in however you want to. If you are, if you're not aware of it, that's one thing. That's easy to fix. Okay. If you're aware but not using, then we have to ask, how can I start using? That's partly what we have here with the implementations. Okay. We might want to have a beginning implementation or something. But how do you improve? Well, probably you're having problems doing something. So there are either things you don't know. In other words, we might be aware of what we need, but maybe we're missing some concept, or we're not doing something well because we're having problems. But what I will do in another session or 2 is I'll actually split up, add additional columns, which will, well, maybe why not put them in now? I'm going to put them in now. This is a bit much, but I'm going to do it anyway because you don't have to do anything. I'll show you what it is because I want you to see. If we're not aware of it, isn't it relatively easy to go from not aware to aware?
Yeah, that's what we are teaching.
Yeah. Maybe not aware, but using. This will requires a simple start, right? This would require, oops, I just did something wrong here. Oh, I did, for some reason, I didn't have a, To go beginning it to using it well, um, what does that require?
Practice and coaching.
Practice and coaching, yeah. Probably see what the impediment is. I mean, will that help? It maybe just is practice and coaching, but it's also, I think it's also seeing what's your problem. Identifying the challenge. Yeah, but this is also practice and coaching because we can do that as a consultant. I'm going to put it this way and use katas. Okay. And this is more of the same, just, you know, okay. Now I want to focus on I want to focus on these guys. Okay, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you feel like you want to add something in the middle. So this is an important thing. There's not many, I mean, not the one, not a one. There could be several paths, but the question is, how do you go from here to here? And it's going to depend on where they are. So I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I want the idea that you, as a consultant, it's up to you to do the path. Okay, I'm going to add something else here. I just realized. Add in the pickup 6 models. I actually have a way to do that, but I'm not going to do that now. Okay, questions and comments about what I'm suggesting we want to go to. Not so much today. I would rather y'all stick with these sections here. Okay,
Yeah, so I have a few comments there.
please,
First,
Thomas.
I like this 5 level score, is also known as a Likert scale.
Yeah.
And that's quite popular in assessing capabilities or
Does he use
capability
these terms?
maturity.
Yeah,
Likert
I've heard
scale.
of his, but I don't remember the specific ways.
Yeah, it's just a scale, a qualitative ranking scale from 1 to 5.
Okay.
And you see that, for example, in the traditional software engineering institute's capability maturity model, right? There
Yeah.
you had 5 scores, 5 capability scores. You had not present or chaotic, and then defined and managed
Right.
and improving and optimizing or something. And I also, like last week, I went through an exercise thinking through a couple of large scale product development projects that I
Yeah.
had managed over my career. And I went through the 10 guidance principles that you have just
Yeah.
here on the left of your screen. And I thought about them on a similar Likert scale. I thought about those teams, how well did they use system thinking, or how much did we get quick feedback, etc., on a
Yes.
5 point scale. And doing that across different projects forces you to abstract these things and think about typical behaviors or typical manifestations of what does this capability at a level 4, let's say, good, what does that mean, right? It's a little bit like a manager assesses the skills of an engineer or, say, a candidate in an interview based on certain evidence. And so I like that it forces you to abstract these things and you build a better mental model of what it means to do systems thinking or
That's
to
right.
manage work in process. What I don't like is that with this, it looks more like a certification, compliance,
Yeah.
maturity. program with certification industry behind it, right? So that's the only thing that gives me a little concern.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, Thomas, because I think you're on the edge of something that's big, which is not just the certification thing. It's rather the misidentification that this is kind of an example of something, not the real thing. The real thing itself isn't actually even being mentioned because it's more conceptual and abstract. And what I mean by what I just said is that to me, this is the biggest impediment we have in the industry is that people don't want to go past the examples. Now, I'm fine if they want to learn from the examples because that's how people are. You're not going to change how they think. You might change what they think of, but changing how they think is not really, might happen, but not fast. So the question becomes what you've identified is key. The question, and I've been in this question for months and it just is getting more frustrating, not less frustrating. So it's not like I know I can solve it. And it's an age-old question. So to say we can change things when it's human nature is optimistic and delusional, optimistic at best and delusional at worst. So I may be delusional here, but I'm not ready to give up. And I'll tell you why. We've never been in this situation of understanding our reality as we are now. This is not 100 years ago when we didn't understand a lot of stuff. We understand a lot now. We understand neuroplasticity. We understand a lot about neurology and how people think. This wasn't present in the past. And I'll admit, I have no clue how to fix it, but I think there might be a way. And I think AI might be the way. That's why I'm starting the AI project I am with the HANA project, HANA Prodigy and Enterprise Agility. But this is something to keep in mind for those of you who are kind of going along this path and looking at it. Is there a way that we need to set this up? There are two things here. I guess one thing is true. We need to set it up so people don't go down the concern you have, Thomas, because I agree with you. That's how people will look at it. And the other thing then, is there a way to improve the way people think? What we have to recognize is that people generalize and they filter things. So everything we do is filtered. It's like having somebody trying to see green when they've got green glasses on that filters it out. Or maybe it's red glasses filter out the green and it just shows up as black. So that's part of what I'm also trying to do here with this project. It's not just fill it in, but to identify the capabilities and to maybe shift our thinking from solutions to how do we solve problems. And maybe a way to do this. I've been reading a book. Here, I'll show you. I've read this book. I highly recommend this book. It's totally shifted my attitude on some things. I mean, it was like, oh my goodness, it totally fit my my understanding of things. The Story 10X by Michael Margolis. It's just really a remarkable book. And he says things that at least I wasn't doing, but I could immediately relate to and agree with it. And it's the idea of stories coming from the emotions first and then the logic later and the conclusions later. And I often work the other way because my training in mathematics, I suppose, and engineering. But anyway, it's a quick read too. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Well, let's pause. Any other questions or comments? These questions are great. They help direct me, but they also solve problems for you. So give me another minute. Okay, then what I want you to do is I'm going to probably shut the recording off in a couple of minutes, but you can come in here and keep working and I'll take a look at it. And if you have questions, add comments. Or if you want comments on something, see here, let me show you this. If you see this in the middle here, if you want to change the color, notice that when I click on it, feel free to do something like this to get my attention. Okay. and you can add a comment or something. You can just even ask, just add the comment right in it, or you could right click it and add a comment, okay, as well. I'm gonna get rid of this. Um, and I'm gonna set this color back. But yeah, do that. Actually, that's a good way. Then that's a visual, and I'll come in here every now and then and see what. Yeah, but I want to concentrate on these 5 columns. Feel free. The easiest way to, if you want to, in fact, maybe I just go put these in because I've done this so much. Um, but I'll show you how I do this because I don't know, there might be a better way in these tables, but this is how I figured out how to do this. I come in here, I do Control C, I put the cursor to put it about in the middle, and I unblock it, ungroup it, and you'll see how I don't have to get it exact. I just get it in the thing and it automatically adjusts. So it's a little time, but it's not so bad. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to hang loose for another few minutes though, and focus on this. And next week we'll get into this, and I'll add some information and I'll open up the book. I don't know if I want to open up the book yet. It's too confusing, but I will have the book ready to go as we go. The thing I like about this is you can use the diagrams. What happened here? Oh, well, I'll have
Yeah,
to
I
go
think
look. This is
when you inserted the columns on the matrix, some of the items were shifted, but others were
the
not.
others were not. This was one that wasn't. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's right. I'll go back to an original version and see it. Yeah, these went elsewhere, but I'll go do that. I'll fix that later. Uh, just something you might consider, we'll also talk about this, is the way I pick things is to work on is some things have very high value relative to cost, and some things have only good value relative to cost. If it doesn't have good value relative to cost, you don't do it. They can be implemented by themselves. So I have this in my head, and I don't know why I want to build this out. I'd like to do this dynamically because it makes you think about, well, what's the difficulty and what's my return? So this will also be something we do next week. And oops, that's not what I meant. I'll fix these guys. I'll get them off this right now. Okay, any closing questions? Okay, well, feel free to keep working. I'm going to be here. I'll fix this up. I'll have to go to a back version and see where it went. Okay, I'm going to be on here, but I'm just stopping the recording.